Hello one and all, welcome to the Culture Test. My name is Braeden, and alongside me, as always, is Trey, Throw Mama from the Train, Smith. And last week was Last of the Mohicans, this week is Throw Mama from the Train. So, this is the very first official...
Is that like grandmother gets run over by a reindeer?
No, it's not even close to that. This is the first official episode of the Culture Test. If you were fortunate enough to join us last week, you got to see episode 0, our pilot episode.
Unfortunate enough?
Yeah, maybe the better descriptor there. But this is the first official experiment, if you will. So for the 40 or so people who watched the first episode, thank you. And if you actually decided to watch this episode as well, thank you especially, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And hopefully we get better than like minute and a half views, like unlike the last one.
Yeah, well, I know that my mother is still in the middle of watching it a week later, so she can only take it in small doses.
That's unfortunate.
But,
I guess we're that unbearable.
Yeah, well,
your own mother doesn't like us.
What can I say? If you did join us last week, then you'll notice a bit of a change in location. We were at Trey's humble abode last week, and we're here at my home this week. And as you can see, I do enjoy partaking in the occasional movie-watching experience. But, so Trey, what's been going on this week?
So, pretty much just been hanging out, talking with this guy, trying to get things moving forward for this project. Been doing the whole job search thing, so hooray for that. So that's been a huge focus, and other than that, it's been a pretty boring week. I've continued with my Instagram campaign to try to get a picture out a day. So moving forward, it seems pretty cool. Fiance's coming over today. Happy about that. I was happy to see her. Yeah, that's about the extent of it.
Yep, my week has been doing a lot of pre-editing. So those nice little things you saw at the bottom of the screen. Hopefully, I didn't screw them up and they look right by the time you watch this. And all the little bumpers and everything. One of the things that I kind of mentioned, I think, on the last time was, hopefully breaking it up into segments as we go on.
Yeah, we're not as rambly, because I was watching through the stuff and I was frickin' terrible.
So try to make it a little more concise. And
yeah.
Just a little more manageable. So hopefully that's what happens. We don't ramble too much, but it's basically live. You're watching it recorded, but for us, it's basically live. And, you don't know what's going to happen. So, I mean, for all I know, Trey could just start, going off on a tangent, just cursing every other word, and because it's a family show, I'm just going to have to bleep it. So,
Yeah, not do that. That wouldn't be...
The funny thing is, though, that in editing, I'm going to, bleep, one or two words.
Right now, I'm doing this now?
Yeah, so
You're really going to go after this sort of thing, so it sounds like I'm being a terrible person at this point.
Yes, and the funny thing, though, is, and I'm going to put this idea in the audience, that said, you could legitimately be cursing right now. And they wouldn't know it because it's getting bleeped anyways. So they don't know if you're cursing or not.
Yeah, see, that's not very fair, so you.
Except for that one, I'm not going to censor.
Oh, thanks, because that one looks really like an idiot. Yeah, that's all I need is an employee looking this up and then seeing this sort of tangent. Anyways.
Are you trying to make me look stupid? You don't need any help from me. That's basically the way it goes around here. But we're having fun. Hopefully you're having fun. And if you're not having fun...
I'm not having fun.
Then you can join Trey's little pity party over here. But if you're not having fun, maybe this make you enjoy yourself a little bit more.
Maybe this will brighten your day, listening to us just rant and rave on subjects of ranting and raving.
And see, this is one of those times where it's important that chemistry works out, because I was actually doing a kind of a throw to a segment. Okay. And it didn't happen, because then you kind of used it as promoting the show, which is fine. No, it's great. It's just roll the clip.
Marcia, what happened?
Peter hit me in the nose with a football. I can't go to the dance like this.
Well, I'm sure it was an accident, sweetheart.
An eye for an eye. That's what Dad always says.
I never said that, honey.
Shut up! Time to teach Peter a lesson.
Marcia, eat a Snickers.
Why?
You get a little hostile when you're hungry. Better? Better.
Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
Jan, this isn't about you.
It never is.
So now we're coming out of that.
Yeah. So that's a thing. hopefully you enjoy that this upcoming Sunday. There's not much more we could say about that.
My thought was we'll show the clip and talk about it, but there is nothing to say.
Nothing at all.
I posted on Facebook, and I posted with it brilliant. That's the only thing I'd say is brilliant. It's just a funny ad. Snickers has done a really good job with those Super Bowl ads with getting celebrities in there, and I think this one may be the funniest yet with Trejo and Buscemi. So.
And the fact that Trejo's 70 years old now, that was a new one on me.
Yeah. So. It's funny because I'm wearing, Dude Abides from Big Lebowski, which Steve Buscemi is in. It's not the first time they've worked together. They've been in a few of the Spy Kids movies together.
Yeah.
Desperado. It's basically Robert Rodriguez films. In fact, it's not really a spoiler because the movie is more than 20 years old now, but Danny Trejo's character kills Steve Buscemi's character in Desperado. So and now they're doing the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, so now they can say that they've been in the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, so
fun stuff.
Very fun stuff. My hat's off to whoever came up with the idea and whoever put it together. Because it's pretty brilliant. But, so that's that. Super Bowl is coming up.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have any predictions or picks or anything for that?
I'm hoping that the Seahawks win, because that makes the new head coach of the Falcons, fingers crossed, makes him look a whole heck of a lot better,
sure.
And maybe we'll actually have a team next year, because the Falcons kind of choke and die every single year. And being from the Atlanta area, I would really like to be able to say my team's been to a Super Bowl and not our team chokes on every single freaking playoff game.
Hey, 1997, they made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, they choked in the Super Bowl game, but they made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but that was 97.
That's true. That was a very long time ago.
I mean, I had just moved to the area where I'm at now, so no, that's not a good thing. The Mike Smith era was supposed to be great with Matty Ice and all that, but Matty Ice, excellent quarterback, but we had some terrible calls this year by the head coach. It kind of messed it up, and so the game kind of got thrown off, and whatever the heck happened in the last game, we just pretty much threw it against the Carolina.
You know how those
Panthers.
Smiths are. Just a whole bunch of them. Just.
Yeah, there are a lot of us out there.
So we don't technically have a sports segment, so the general kind of opening talk, you might hear a little bit of sports. And
we're getting an
Snickers
MLS team.
commercials. We are getting a soccer
thanks
team.
to Alpha, Mr. Blum.
So, yeah, we're getting a soccer team, new stadium for the Falcons and for the currently unnamed Atlanta expansion for MLS. The Braves are getting a new stadium. Basically, the only successful team in Atlanta, the Hawks, are the only ones not getting
but they have Phillips Arena.
They have Phillips Arena, which is also the newest.
Yeah, it's the newest thing. But, man, them Hawks, though.
And see, it's funny, because I remember in middle school, driving to... Well, I wasn't driving to middle school. I was riding to school every day, and I listened to sports talk radio, and the whole joke was they couldn't win a game. They were literally the worst team in the NBA.
The Hawks? Yeah, absolutely.
And they would finally get a win against, like, the Lakers in preseason. It was like the Hawks finally won a game, but it's preseason, so it's the one time that doesn't count.
Yeah.
And that's basically the way it was, where it was the worst team in the NBA by far, and now they've gone from that. And it's been a long journey to now where they are a very solid,
we have an
consistent
amazing
team.
coach has really turned around the team. And I think the best part about the Hawks team is they're playing as a team. It's not an individual effort. And I think that's the key here, because we're actually playing, because basketball, from what I've watched, and I'm really not that huge of a basketball fan, but going and watching games at Mercer, it is a team sport. If you have a good team, if you have a good coach, and you have players that are playing together, and it's not just individuals playing, you will beat the individuals every single time. Because the individual cannot be everywhere on the court at once. I mean, it might seem that way in some instances, but you have a better chance and a better quality record if you have a full team that is just meshed and playing well together. And I think that's what the Hawks have right now, and I'm happy for them. It's about time that they had a good season, a good run. So
absolutely. And going from sports talk into movie talk, coming up, Reel to Reel, we're going to talk about a few of the new trailers that came out this week, plus some casting rumors concerning a reboot that's not Ghostbusters, because if we talk about that, we're going to be here all day. So stay tuned. And this is Reel to Reel, where we talk about movies for real. We haven't come up with a tagline or quote or whatever yet, so bear with us.
Do we need it?
Probably not. But anyways, this is where we talk about films. So, first thing we're going to talk about is there's two big trailers that came out this week. Big franchise film trailers.
This past week.
Yes, this past week.
Yeah.
The first we're going to talk about is the new trailer for the Fantastic Four reboot, which is a welcome film after the last two, which weren't necessarily awful films. They weren't like Batman and Robin bad, but they definitely didn't live up to the potential the Fantastic Four could have.
Yeah.
So
I thought they were very. I mean, you knew everything that was going to happen in them, and it was kind of like so overdone. It felt overdone.
And this was long before superhero movies really picked up like
Yeah,
they
it's
had.
true.
Because this is before
You're right.
Iron Man, before the Marvel Universe.
But it felt
before all
cliche
that.
even then.
Even then. So, so it's a welcome addition, especially now having seen the trailer. It blew me away, not necessarily because I think, it's going to be the best film of the year, but because it was so different. And like, this is what I want in a superhero movie now. Because except for maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, and as much
Which
as
was so different.
Yeah, as much as I enjoy the Marvel movies, there is a sameness to them.
Yeah.
And while it's enjoyable, you want something different. You know, you can't have chocolate ice cream every day. Well, you shouldn't have ice cream every day anyways. But you have to mix it up. And this film looks a lot different.
Grab some vanilla every once in a while.
Exactly. And though I think this looks a little more flavorful than vanilla, I mean, it reminded me of...
Strawberry, maybe.
It reminded me more of a science fiction movie rather than a superhero movie. It looked very much like Interstellar. The first shots I saw of it, I thought looked very similar to the opening of the Star Trek reboot.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, it reminded me of that, which I think is great. Go into a different direction, like Guardians did. It went more into a space opera type direction.
It had the feeling that you got from the beginning of the Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
It had a similar vibe. The very beginning parts of the Captain America one, the first one, not Winter Soldier. I still haven't seen Winter Soldier, so please don't shoot me. I need to see it. But yeah, it was. I don't know. You made a reference to it being similar to Interstellar and it being a little bit more on a serious note. I hope that what the trailer is showing, that's what comes to be, because I'm definitely more interested in that style of film that actually has you thinking a little bit more. I mean, that's just who I am. I like thinking style movies. I like to have, if it's comedy, I like the drier, more cerebral humor, not so much of a slapstick fan, though if it's used in moderation, I think it's a good point for a movie. But I hope that it kind of comes out to be something a little bit more on the serious side.
And I think based on the track record, and that's why when I heard there was a Fantastic Four reboot, my first thought was, okay, of all the films series to reboot, Fantastic Four is a good example because we never really got a great movie out of it. And then it
wasn't like you're killing something because like the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, that was a little I was hesitant with, but it was like Josh Trank, who did Chronicles, directing it, and for me, now you weren't necessarily a fan of Chronicles.
No.
I thought it was one of the more original films to come out that year as far as genre goes, because I hadn't ever seen a superhero film done in that way. And I'm not a found footage film. Frankly, I hate the genre. I think it's lazy filmmaking. But it was done in a perfect style. It was done in a way where they made it... It was still very cinematic. A lot of the techniques that were used, it felt very fresh, original, and new. And Michael B. Jordan, who was in Chronicle, plays Human Torch in Fantastic Four. So that's a team that I think works really well, and they'll be teaming back up for this.
I would have still preferred Super 8 if you're going with found film sort of thing.
And see, I still need to see Super 8. And again, J.J. Abrams, so it all kind of
You haven't
connects.
seen Super 8?
I thought we had this conversation the other day.
No.
No, I had a conversation with someone. So
you haven't seen Super 8?
I swear I have this converation like once a month.
Good Lord.
Have you seen the movies that I own that I'm trying to watch? If Super 8 isn't one of them, and it's not, trust me, I've looked. Because occasionally I have to look and go, do I actually own that?
It's on Netflix.
I know, it's...
Shame on you.
Have you ever seen Citizen Kane?
No.
Yeah, okay. So, completely, their movies have nothing to do with
No,
one
they're
another,
not, but...
Anyways, so, but long story short, I think that this Fantastic Four trailer is a good indication that the film is going to be something different.
Yeah.
Which is always a positive, and it looks like the effects look pretty good. The cinematography looked good. It intrigued me. I definitely want to see more, which is what any good trailer should do.
All right, so moving on to a more sillier note, let's talk about the other trailer that came out. And
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, it's
Ted 2.
Yeah.
So
how about that?
now I
Ted?
actually have Ted somewhere.
Ah,
Somewhere down there. But
somewhere in.
yeah, so I take it then you really enjoyed the first Ted.
The first Ted was funny.
I didn't hate it, which is always a good sign. I'm not a big Seth MacFarlane fan, but I laughed a couple of times at it.
Shame.
And, I like the earliest stuff. I'm that hipster guy. Oh, the earliest stuff was so much better, but I feel like it kind of got away from him as time went on.
I don't know. Seth MacFarlane has like a direct line to my funny bone, or something. I like his humor.
My qualms with Ted were that a lot of the humor in it,
And Wahlberg did an excellent
a
job.
lot of the jokes in it, had already been done on Family Guy, which is understandable though because he had been working on Ted for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So it made sense for some of the jokes to make their way on the Family
Yeah.
Guy. So it kind of bugged me, but it wasn't a huge deal. Overall, I thought the film was pretty funny because I thought MacFarlane and Wahlberg, even though it was Wahlberg with a digital object, they had really good chemistry.
Yeah.
And the Ted 2 trailer, I thought, demonstrated the moment at the end where they're
And
doing the legal jargon back and forth.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily correct.
Yeah.
I thought they showed that chemistry very well.
Yeah.
So that'll be the best part of the film is when they're going back and
I love
forth.
chemistry, especially in a film or in a podcast, for example.
Here's an example of not having chemistry.
It has it brings it together. You can have
Right.
like a really, really bad TV show, but if the characters have really, really, really good chemistry, you don't care about the effects or whatever.
It can save it.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Not saying The Firefly was a terrible show, but what made that show so good was the chemistry.
And yeah, I'm not going to talk about New Ghostbusters, but because it kind of goes into that, where what made Ghostbusters was the chemistry of the actors. But I'm not going to talk about that.
What more chemistry is coming up that you're so frustrated with? Do you not think these ladies are gonna have good chemistry?
I feel stupid because I don't remember their names. But the ones that aren't McCarthy and who are from SNL,
but it
I don't know
doesn't
about them. I don't know about them.
Who cares? They're unknown. They're unknown. So.
But I don't know what chemistry they
Hollywood.
might have. I've seen McCarthy and Wig in the same film, and I hated it. Not McCarthy necessarily. I don't know. I think the whole thing's a bad idea. Not even female Ghostbusters. That idea is irrelevant. Ghostbusters 3 reboot whatever is a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bad ideas, what about this
potentially
Pratt
bad ideas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
That's the
reboot
other
of Indiana Jones.
reboot of Indiana Jones with Chris Pratt as Indiana Jones. This one didn't. I don't know why this one didn't frustrate me as much as Ghostbusters.
I'm scared.
No, and I would be too, but I think it's because I've seen Chris Pratt, and I know how versatile he is, and I know he can do action, I know he can do adventure, I know he can do comedy, he can pretty much do it all. So I get
replacing Harrison Ford. Is he Harrison? Well, I mean, you have to take it in a completely different direction because Harrison Ford is his own character.
Yeah, and the only person I think who could do it like Harrison Ford would be the other kind of rumored choice, and that's Bradley Cooper. But even then, I don't foresee that.
No, he's too goofy.
I would
I haven't seen American Sniper, but
yeah, no, I think Bradley Cooper could do it, but I would rather them go in a different direction.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do it differently. But I'm not. And it's weird because someone's like, oh, Disney ruins everything. Well, they bought Marvel, and then what happened with all the Marvel films? Well, then we got Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, and all these other great films from So I'm not as concerned about it as some people might be, and maybe that's me being naive. Because I grew up with Indiana Jones and Star Wars, watching those VHS tapes over and over and over. Like those are the movies I grew up on. But
if it reintroduces the franchise to a whole new set of fans, it might be great. But my concern is, Pratt is a scruffy-looking nerf herder. He fits that description very well, and he has potential. I just hate rebooting such a beloved franchise because it could be damaging. Just like the whole 1 through 3 Star Wars films were.
Right.
And that's what concerns me, is taking something that Lucas did when he was actually smart and then ruining it because he's not smart anymore, or some such, however you want to put that.
And I was looking real quick because I thought they had a writer, but apparently they don't yet. So,
Well, that's interesting.
so I feel like this idea is way far out. That this isn't going to be something that happens
Maybe
in the
they're
next
just
couple of
throwing some
years.
feelers out there and seeing if there's
Seeing the
any
reaction
sort
to
of
it.
seeing if there's any sort of.
But to me, if you look at their history with Star Wars, which there's not really necessarily a history there because we haven't had their first Star Wars film yet.
I'm still upset that they've done so much with the Star Wars because they threw out like the whole novel
Well, to
canon.
me,
Of course, it got way out of hand. That
would-
web of novels being like
I would rather them throw it out
Huge.
for if it means making a good
at least
film.
Clone Wars was kept in the canon.
Yeah, it's basically everything outside of the main television films and such. And I think that was the right decision in order to tell the story that they want to tell.
Because
Right.
it got so intricate.
Because
with all
it
the
doesn't.
different
It's
novels.
not like the books all of a sudden disappear. They're still there. You know. I
Yeah.
mean,
They just don't count anymore.
I mean, I
They're
understand being
irrelevant.
upset by it.
There's no point to read them anymore.
But let's
They
face it.
they shot him.
for the general,
It's dead.
Did the book shoot first, or did?
No.
No. But apparently, though,
They didn't have any
And
lightsabers.
here's one thing that, and maybe it's making up for that, but I believe it's been announced that Disney will be releasing the original cuts on Blu-ray.
Well, that'd be nice.
So I
'Cause
mean,
I don't think that I don't think any Star Wars pieces are out on, besides the new ones.
Well, no, I mean I have the complete saga up here. But it's all of the special edition cuts. It's all of the
yeah, but that's
exactly. It's not the original cuts that haven't been seen since the 70s and 80s, since the pre-special edition in 1997. I have them on VHS, but that hasn't been seen since then. So,
I think we got that one too.
but anyways, but if you look at that, the way they've handled it, I mean, the trailers come out. It looks quite good. They've already got a big plan in place for the future ones, and looking at who they're putting in place. Episode 8 is going to be directed by friggin' Rian Johnson, who directed Looper, which is one of the smartest, freshest, most original science fiction films I've seen in years.
I still haven't seen that.
And it's
It's on
here, I got it. You can borrow it. Here, JKL, and it's
Looper.
Here, you can Looper, you can borrow it. Fantastic film.
Awesome.
But yeah, so they're
watch that
going
tonight.
beyond the kind of the safe directors.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because I don't know if Spielberg's going to direct a new Indiana Jones, and I don't think he would.
Oh, Gordon Levitt's in it.
Oh yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic film.
Ooh.
But if they're willing to get Rian Johnson, Gareth Edwards, who did Godzilla, to do a spin-off film, I don't see why they wouldn't go outside the safe directors to do an Indiana Jones film. And I feel like that would be a really good idea, because then you can go
Just do
beyond.
something totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
So, I mean, Disney, like, for the first Star Wars, for Episode 7, yeah, they went safe with J.J. Abrams, which is not a bad choice, but it's safe. You're like, okay, he's done 2 Star Trek films, he's done Super 8,
He knows
he knows
the genre.
He's a safe choice.
But they might be doing that to kind of reintroduce
Right.
everybody to it and say, this is what it's going to be, here's what you're expecting, you're going to enjoy it because it's J.J. Abrams,
And then
we
Rian
can go
Johnson
forward
into
and
these
we can
younger
do some
directors.
different stuff.
Yeah. So and I think it's a smart move, and I think they might do the same with Indiana Jones. I don't know. Like I said, I don't even know if there's a writer attached or anything, but I am cautiously optimistic that Disney does right by it, and especially with something like this, because it's essentially a new franchise for them.
Well, yeah.
They have to.
But
make it
Lucas
work.
owns Disney now, so, I mean...
Yeah, well, and I think another good indication of what might happen is look at Captain America, the first Avenger. That movie I felt was the closest thing to an Indiana Jones film since the third Indiana Jones film.
did have that
In
adventure,
style and tone.
that
It was this
adventure
classic
feel
adventure style
to it.
film, because the Indiana Jones films themselves were throwbacks to the serials
Yeah.
of the era, and that's the way I felt about Captain America, and that's why it was one of my absolute favorite Marvel movies until Guardians came.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Indiana Jones films themselves are all about these love letters to cinema and that style of film. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here, rebooting
That's
it.
Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo the same way.
But yeah, why don't y'all let us know what you think? What do you think of these new films, these reboots that are possibly coming out with Ghostbusters and the possible Indiana Jones reboot and the Fantastic Four reboot that's coming out that, we're all, it's looking pretty optimistic for superheroes, and some of them are wish they would never happen. So,
You said
moving
it, not
on.
me. So our next segment that we have coming up is, we don't know. See, we're doing everything off the cuff. We have segments broken up. We even have a nice little format that we created. But we don't really know what's going on, and you know what? That's okay. So, enjoy this short little commercial break. We'll be back with whatever we decide to show you.
Alright, and welcome back, folks. So now we're going to start talking a little bit more of the music stuff, and that's more in my wheelhouse compared to Braden's, but we're going to pick his brain as well.
I think I have a musical up here, at least. So.
Well, we could talk about musicals, but I'm thinking more of the indie music scene, like actual music, folks. So just to give a general idea of where my music interests have been lately, I've kind of jumped around on a couple of areas. I've been listening, the Black Keys is kind of like my go-to if I want the grunge and all that sort of stuff, because there's some great stuff. And, generally a lot of my music listening happens on Pandora. However, recently I've really started getting into SoundCloud and more moving towards the electronica end of things, and what really got me into that was Porter Robinson. So, Braden, have you heard of Porter Robinson?
No, Trey, I haven't heard of Porter Robinson.
All right. So, Porter Robinson, he's actually... I think from North Carolina. He's recently been touring with Skrillex internationally.
I've heard of Skrillex.
So do you know what Skrillex does?
He presses play on his MacBook and all.
No, it's a little bit more than just presses play on his MacBook. He's a little
wub.
No.
I heard Skrillex live once actually, at Tomorrow World.
Were you like 200 yards away or something? Or
no, I was literally at my girlfriend's house at the time in her driveway, and the music was so loud you could hear it because we're standing there and she goes, "Hey, that's Skrillex." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, he was at Tomorrow World, which is kind of on the west side of Atlanta every year. It was the second rendition of Tomorrow World. I hope that I get to go next year because I think it would be awesome. But yeah, the music was loud. You could hear it all the way in Douglasville, which is about 5 to 10 miles away.
Yeah.
Actually, that's how. The speaker set up there was
clearly
amazing. If you ever see any of the pictures, you can go take it a look. But anyway, so we're gonna talk a little bit about Porter Robinson, who, like I said, was touring with Skrillex. He's actually signed with Skrillex now, and he's actually come out. He's one of these up and coming electronica artists, and he came out with a recent music video, and maybe we could show a couple of seconds of the music video here. Just kind of give you an idea of where he comes from. The Lionhearted, which the music video for it is just fun. So enjoy. Let us know what you think, and maybe we'll move on to another subject since you haven't really heard Porter Robinson. So, going in a completely different train or realm of things, we have Ruby the Rabbitfoot, who I had the pleasure of listening to over, I guess it was fall/summer, and she is a artist who is based out of the Athens, Georgia area, where there's a awesome music scene in Athens, Georgia, and I got to go see her in a small little venue in Athens, and it was just fun. And she's very talented. So if you get the chance, I would go ahead and you could check out her videos over on her YouTube channel. She has a few music videos that are out, and go give her some love and support. I think she's an excellent young artist, just trying to make it out in the world. She actually has a vinyl out, which I still need to get. I'm a huge fan of vinyl. Do you prefer? Do you have a music preference or
no?
To listen?
Well, you mentioned using Pandora a lot. I use a lot of Spotify these days. It's basically it all equals the same, but I like the ability to build an individual playlist. Yeah. So you can save the songs and listen to them whenever you want.
See, I've been doing that on SoundCloud, which is more of the independent side of things. So that's where I've been listening to like DJ Complexion He does Future Beats Radio, which is actually based out in London, and he'll upload his show, which is about a 2-hour show on his SoundCloud channel, and he finds some really neat stuff. So it's more of a chill electronica. So if you just want something to listen to, like when you're studying or something like that, it's a great show. It's broken up so that he has a few little blurbs here and there. He kind of explains where the artists are coming from, and gives just a really good view of where where the beats are coming from, and it's a fun show. And I guess I'm a sucker for any sort of British accent, whether it be in movies or music, and there's just so many good pieces out there. Yeah.
Well, that kind of, I mean, you just asked me what I listen to most of my music, and I told you I do a lot of streaming now.
Yeah.
Do you mostly do vinyl, CDs, streaming?
Well, I stream the majority of my music that I listen to, either on Pandora or SoundCloud. I like Pandora just because I grew up listening to Pandora back in high school and kind of moved forward listening to it in college, and so that's what I've stuck with. I never jumped on to the Spotify bandwagon, and I'm not a huge fan of Spotify. And Taylor Swift, she just pretty much pulled all of her stuff down off of Spotify.
Don't tell me that's what made you.
No. That was a recent thing, but it just kind of goes to show you, like, because she's a very savvy businesswoman. Not only is she a talented songwriter, but she's very talented when it comes to being from the business realm of things.
I think she's I don't think she understands the way the streaming works and the way we're going into the streaming. I think she's underestimating the power of streaming and where it's going.
I understand that, but she's very savvy in the way that she's been conducting her business, especially with the whole secret concerts and things like that she did, and actually sending and delivering different presents to some of her fans that she's been stalking on Twitter and stuff. You just don't hear of famous people doing that, and I just think that that's such good publicity for her.
See, that's why I actually named my band Taylor Swift Secret Concert. So you put flyers up, and you get like 500 really ticked off people there every single night, guaranteed. But the reason I ask that, especially with streaming and all that, is I saw an article the other day, and I think I sent it to you, where a poll was done in Norway with kind of our demographic about where they get their music, and you compare it to 5 years ago, where it was something like 87% was downloading the music illegally. Now that's completely swapped, where it's maybe like 4% are downloading illegally, and the majority of them are getting it from streaming services they pay for.
Yeah.
And that's, I just wanted to know kind of what your thoughts on it, because me personally, I think that, and this was always my train of thought, that people are going to download stuff illegally, are going to download illegally if they don't have access to it. But when you make a service where you only pay, like for Spotify, student rate is only $5 a month. People are willing to pay for it if you give them a good service. And so I think stuff like Netflix, stuff like Spotify, stuff like Pandora is going a long way in fighting piracy, personally.
Yeah, I think so. And, actually, I think that the whole music industry kind of has a stranglehold, especially on new up-and-coming young artists. And I think that streaming is a way for them to break out, and that's why SoundCloud has become so popular recently, because anybody can put their music up onto SoundCloud, even if they have a subscription, to be able to get their music out there, and people can go and they can find it and listen to it. There's still ad revenue that's being made, but the majority of money that is made on a album or record is given to the recording company. It's not even going to the artist. And where the artist makes a lot of their money is getting folks to the concert. So they just want to get their music out there. Just let them get their stuff out there, folks. And, that's kind of my whole view on it, is I just want to listen to the music. I don't know. I don't care how I get it. I listen to music a lot in the car. So I have a large collection of CDs, and that's kind of an unheard of thing these days, is I do have a collection of CDs. I'll listen a lot of streaming. But you were asking, what I prefer, and I don't think anything beats vinyl. If you can find a good record shop that still sells that stuff, even new young artists are coming out with stuff. Ruby the Rabbitfoot has albums out.
I believe that vinyl sales were actually like 40% this year. Like, vinyl is coming back.
It is.
Because just audio quality wise,
sounds so good.
Right, and so now that everyone's going to streaming, it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to buy a physical format, well, I might as well buy one that's superior.
Right.
You know, it may obviously you can't play it in the car, but that's what you have
It's the
streaming
nostalgia factor,
Right.
and you're going to be streaming in the car because you're going to want to listen to a whole bunch of stuff. Nobody wants to listen to the same person over and over again and have to change CDs and onward and so forth. And, you know, majority of folks, you know, either have some sort of Android device or an iPhone, and they can stream very, very easily in the car.
So what about you? Is it CDs, MP3s, illegal downloads? We won't tell anyone. Streaming, vinyl, what is it? Let us know at theculturetest@gmail.com or tweet us at Braeden or at Third Photos. Coming up, more of The Culture Test. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is a segment of the show called Game Breaker, where we talk about video games, technology, video games plural, not just a single video game, although I'm sure we could find some game to talk about and just talk about that one game for weeks on end, but we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. So first thing is not necessarily a video game, but a piece of technology that is definitely going to incorporate video games, it seems, and something that Microsoft seems to be banking a lot on in the future years, and that is the
HoloLens, which is kind of the thing that is going to be the driving force for Microsoft 10, which is the new OS that's coming out. I think it'll be
good,
out next.
we skipped
later
over
this year.
9 altogether.
Yeah, something about, I don't know, jumping from 8 to 10. Who knows? Maybe they're thinking mobile was mobile 9 or something. I think they've done weird naming conventions.
I've heard that, like, the official reason was it's such a huge leap that they went ahead and skipped 9.
Well, that's a load of hooey.
One of the things I heard was because of Windows 95, 98, and all those. It created some issue.
Yeah.
I don't know what's true or not. It's a little ridiculous, but if there's a technical reason, then so be it. But come out and say that.
Yeah.
And say it's a huge achievement. Because from what I've seen so far, it does look to be at least a step above Windows 8. And they're offering it, bless you, for free for Windows 7 and 8 users. So I will definitely be making that upgrade since it'll be free for the version.
Yeah, and kind of a few things to go along with it before we really seriously get into talking about the HoloLens is how they've moved from 8, which was for touch screens, and now they're trying to get rid of the touch screen altogether. They're trying to get rid of screens altogether and just have a visor, which I think is kind of interesting. They've gone from one extreme to another.
Yeah, within a span of only a few years.
Yeah.
And I personally, I don't know your take on it, I think it's a terrible idea, personally.
The HoloLens?
But, well, as far as getting rid of the screens altogether, but I do a lot of editing, I do a lot of things that require screens.
Right.
So, you know, that's my take on it. I'm sure other people will say, no, it's the wave of the future, and,
Well,
and maybe they may be right.
I don't think they're going to be getting rid of the screens altogether. Have you seen the whole trailer and everything that the HoloLens
No, I've seen the images from the trailer, and I've seen the descriptors, and
Alright, so
it looks more supplemental than replacement.
it is, and I think that's the big point, is that it is a headset, a wearable, if you will, that you would wear to help while you're on the computer or doing something else. So there's a clip in the that's in the trailer of somebody that is working on designing a motorcycle. She gets up, walks over, and you can see her putting the piece that she was on the computer designing onto the bike and being able to see what it looks like, just the way that it tricks the eye with the lasers and various things with the headset.
That sounds a lot like an Iron Man
It
2
is
when he's
exactly
designing
like
everything.
that. If you actually see it, when they first announced, there was a immediate correlation, because I was following it on Twitter, there's an immediate correlation between Stark Tech and the HoloLens, almost immediately, just by the way that it looked. And actually, the guy that's behind the whole HoloLens movement within Microsoft, and this has been kept under wraps for 5 years over at Microsoft. Most folks at Microsoft didn't even know that it was being developed. But it's been partnered with some high-end folks. In fact, they've partnered with NASA. But the person behind all of it is the guy that developed the Kinect. And if you remember when the Kinect came out, what was it, about 6 or 7 years ago, everybody was like, wow, this is really cool. But the first version that came out, they had to dumb it down because it did too much, and they felt like it couldn't do it. So that technology got pushed over into HoloLens. And I think that's probably the best move for that technology, and I think the world is going to be more receptive this time around, especially compared which just a week and a half before they announced HoloLens, Google Glass was sent to the graveyard.
Yeah, and that was my question. Really was, what makes it different than Glass and Oculus Rift and things of that sort? And I think as a Kinect owner, in that very first round of Kinects with the Xbox 360, it was fun. I enjoyed it, but to me, what made the technology really interesting wasn't the gaming. It was the stuff outside of that people were doing when they got the assets and they were able to mess with it. Because I saw some really interesting, very cool uses of the technology, and to me, I always saw it more as a tool that could be used in engineering, in the medical field.
Exactly.
And from what I'm seeing here, it's there are gaming possibilities, and that does look like they're going to implement those. But the engineering, the medical, that stuff looks far more interesting, and I think that's what's going to set it apart from things like Glass and Rift, because it has more uses in a professional field.
And so actually the folks over at Wired got to see this thing firsthand and actually got to go in and play with the product, and just the fact that Wired folks were saying this blew our minds and this is going to be totally different than Glass really caught my attention, because I follow Wired. I treat them as a credible news source for anything tech related. And if they're going into Microsoft headquarters, seeing some of the stuff that they're doing and then writing articles and then saying that their minds were blown, there's something serious that's going on with this. And I think the big thing that really showed me the capabilities of it was how, while wearing the headset, they partnered with NASA to do an entire piece of helping the Curiosity rover look at various rocks and things on the surface of Mars. With a headset and feeling like you're right there, and it being so realistic that you get so disoriented from that and you don't want to take the piece off. I think immersing somebody to that level with just a headset is something that Google Glass never came close to. I think they were trying to get it to that point.
I don't know if they, since Google Glass is more of an everyday, all the time
exactly,
wearable,
but I don't
know if they
that
were
was
attempting to reach that with it.
What I mean by that is something that nobody would want to take it off because it influenced their life that much. That's what I'm going for.
Right.
Glass was there for everyday wear and to become a glass hole.
And I think one of the problems, I think if Microsoft is smart, and I think they are, because they've obviously been doing this for a very long time, they market it to the professional field. Yeah. The problem with Google Glass, I felt like they were marketing it to consumers.
The explorers.
And it really, it's an extremely expensive high-end product.
Yeah.
That you're marketing
over $1,000
that you're marketing to your average consumer.
And nobody wants to wear glasses like that all the time either.
And you're limiting yourself to the group that wears glasses, and the group that doesn't wear glasses, they're not going to want to start wearing glasses all the time. So at least with things like Oculus Rift and with the HoloLens, it is when you put it on. It's only there.
It's an apparatus for that moment, and I think that's the big draw to this.
I think the difference then between Oculus Rift is I see Oculus Rift as being almost more of an entertainment device.
I do too.
And I think it's being marketed more as a niche device, which is probably the right way to go.
Yeah.
That's not to say it won't change in the future, because there's constant experiments and improvements in the technology, especially since Facebook bought them for like $2 billion.
And they're throwing a lot of money into it.
So that may change in the future, but I think right now they know what the product is and they're sticking with it.
Right.
Google, I think they didn't know what it was, or they wanted it to be something that it wasn't.
Well, when I went and I got to see Google Glass, and my one big experience with it was when I was at the ONA conference in Atlanta a couple of years ago, and what they were saying, the technology behind Glass was not necessarily the hardware, the pieces that you were wearing, it was the software behind it, because with the camera, it had the capability to be able to read people's retinas just from wherever, and being able to track and see who people were around. Granted, that's a huge privacy issue, number one. Yeah. Number two, it's kind of freaky that we have that powerful amount of technology. And number three, I think as Americans, and Google being in America, we still want to hold on to a little bit of our privacy. At least I do, being, in the gun-toting South,
America.
Yeah. And so I think people were a little bit averse, and I think that really hurt Glass in the end, because that's where the technology wasn't necessarily in the hardware pieces, but the software that was behind everything for it.
And I think that's going to be a key difference, because the term you used earlier, glass holes, it came about because you had all these stories of people abusing the technology, or they weren't necessarily abusing it, or they weren't paying attention, they weren't necessarily abusing it, or they were accused of it and got really, really uptight or really upset about it, and showed kind of a bad side. But I agree, and that's kind of my thought. The big difference is you see someone with this, you're like, I don't know if they're recording me or not, and I think it's a nice idea.
It was a novelty,
but
it was a novelty piece.
There's too many variables, especially when it deals with other people out in public. You got to deal with when you're using stuff like Oculus Rift or with HoloLens. It's going to be in your office, in your room, in whatever your space is, where it's no one's gonna have a problem with the technology being used there in that space. It's not like you're going out in public. It's not like you're sitting in a movie theater.
Now, this is another thing that I think is going to be awesome for the technology. Is I want to see somebody take the technology that HoloLens has and puts it into the Skelly helmets. Are you familiar with Skelly helmets?
No.
All right, so it's the Skelly helmets. At least I think that's what they are. They're motorcycle helmets that have GPS and pretty much a HUD display inside of the helmet.
So now we're definitely like Iron Man with all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But if you put the technology that you already have with Windows 10 and the augmented reality that you could throw into like a motorcycle helmet if you're a biker, I think that's pretty freaking awesome.
I think technology-wise, it's going to change things, even if the product itself doesn't.
Yeah.
I think the technology will make advances elsewhere in other fields and other technological advances. Because I mean, look, you mentioned NASA. Putting a rocket up in space, it's like, well, what does that really do for us? Well, you look at all the technological advances that came from it.
Exactly.
And I think that's going to be kind of the big thing. And Microsoft, being the owners of that technology, they're going to be the ones that profit from it.
Yeah. So tell us, what do you think about these new technologies that are coming out?
And also give a shout out to my mother, just walked into the house. So, hi, Mom. Hi. So let us know what you think at theculturetest@gmail.com. Coming up, more of the Culture Test, so stay tuned. And that just about wraps us up here at the very first official episode of the Culture Test. Hope all of you have enjoyed it, and hope you enjoyed this episode and last episode if you were watching us then as well. We really need to come up with a name for our fans. Everyone has names for their fans, like the Packers have cheeseheads.
Let's see if our fans will actually, if we have fans.
If we have fans, all two of you. Because so far the only names I can think of are our testes or our test subjects. So hopefully, I think
there's too many testes going on right now.
Probably so. So, if you have any suggestions, feel free to let us know. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, send them to theculturetest@gmail.com. If you have any hate mail, you can send it to @thirdphotos on Twitter or Instagram, and Trey Smith will respond to each and every one of them personally. So, before we wrap things up, we want to kind of give a pick of the week, if you will. And we were originally going to do new releases, stuff like that, but we decided to shift things a little bit and maybe give a suggestion of something that we really enjoy that maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you're not aware of, and just hopefully you find out something that that'll interest you. So Trey, if you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, so I actually have an album pick of the week, which is the 1975 by the 1975, which is an awesome album. There's some great songs on there. The 1975 is a indie rock group that's from England, and it is becoming more and more popular, and if you haven't already heard of them already, you really should, because they have some great stuff. I've been hearing some of their songs being played inside of Starbucks where I live most of the time, and I just think that it'd be a great choice to go ahead and listen to, especially if you're new to the indie music scene.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of what movie I want to suggest. As you can see, I have quite a few, and I think this probably is the one to suggest, since I pulled it out for you to borrow. Looper, as I mentioned earlier, is probably one of the freshest, most original science fiction films that I've seen in a very long time. It does time travel in a completely unique manner that I had never seen before, or really ever thought of before. So check it out.
Would you say it's similar to the way they did similar things in shoot, what's the name of the film that just came out? Interstellar.
I'd say it's completely different.
Awesome. Cool.
This plays out more of an action movie, but it's just really well done. Like I said, it's really smart. It's clever. It's fresh and original. It's different, and I really appreciate that with science fiction and horror, because you don't see a lot of that today. You see a lot of stuff that's just kind of pumped out. So Looper, check it out. It's on Blu-ray. I believe it is actually on Netflix Instant Watch. Last time I checked. Don't quote me on that, but if you have Netflix, see if it's there. Vudu, any streaming service, just check it out. It's an excellent science fiction film.
Yep.
So.
And I guess I'll do a pick of the week for coffee because
sure,
we
might
haven't
as
really,
well.
Yeah, because we haven't really talked about it. In case y'all weren't already aware, I am a huge coffee nut. I'm a huge foodie as well, but I would say my pick of the week for coffee, which is something that's a little bit different. It's more of a traditional espresso drink that has kind of been brought back and has really been promoted a lot by Starbucks, but I really like it, and that'd be the flat white. It's not a Starbucks creation. It's been out for a number of years. However, they're bringing it back and kind of showing the actual bare bones and the aspects of what makes espresso drinks espresso. And I think that the flat white just has an excellent flavor. It's smooth, and I think that you should go out and try one. You can go to any of the Starbucks that's out there and check it out. I think it's a great drink.
And I'm going to give a video game pick of the week. Something a little bit different. It's an independent title. It's actually not finished. It's currently in beta. I think it's technically maybe an alpha, but it's still available to purchase.
No, that's been out for a couple
and
years.
It's currently available to purchase, and it guarantees you every single release until it is finally finished. But it's basically a 2 or 3 man group. The game's called Spy Party, and going into kind of fresh original ideas, it's a one-on-one game with one player's a spy, one player's a sniper, and the spy has to perform a certain number of spy acts, like bug an ambassador, transfer a microfilm, seduce a target, all these different things, and then the sniper has to watch all of the different characters on screen and look at their behaviors and figure out who's the spy and who is the target therefore. So it's a really fun game. It's one of those that you have to play it and learn it. So every time you play, you really learn the game. So it's very enjoyable. I think it's only like $10 or $15, and that guarantees you every release up until it is finally finished. So even in the unfinished form as it is now, the gameplay is just plain fun. So highly recommend that.
I'm going to throw out a video game recommendation as well, because there was actually a brand new expansion that came out. I do have a little bit of a nerd side in me, and I actually spend a lot of time playing EverQuest 2 over the years, and EverQuest 2 just recently released their new expansion, and it expands the level cap, so I think it's somewhere in like 110 or something like that now. And I recently started. I used to play on the test server, Go Winter's Dawn, hooray! But now I've moved on, and I'm starting out on the live server. So if you find me on there. I'm not sure what character I'm going to be playing because I'm, just fresh started on there. But yeah, check out EverQuest 2. It's a fun MMORPG if you're into MMOs. It's kind of a computer killer still, even 10-something years after its first release. It kind of came out about the same time that WoW did, but it has much better graphics. I like the story a little bit better. It's not as cartoony, and I don't like anybody that generally plays WoW. So if you want to go out there and you just want to join an excellent community...
you just completely insulted probably most of our viewing.
Well, that and people that play League of Legends, that's for hacks.
And there's the other half. So remember, send all your hate mail to @thirdphotos
Dota 2! Play Dota 2! Yeah.
So, in the meantime, check out our recommendations. Or don't. It's America. Unless you're outside the country, then it's wherever you are. But until then, hope you've enjoyed the second episode of the Culture Test, our very first official episode, and we'll see you next week.